Storm, earth, and fire, heed my call.
What's up everyone, my name is Waves and today we're gonna talk about pugging high-ish keys as an enhancement shaman. Since a few days ago I got told in a YouTube comment that it's actually not possible to pug higher keys as an enhancement shaman, specifically 17 keys and I assume higher keys as well, which would only make sense. And that I'm only able to time 17 keys because I'm playing with a set group of friends that I'm in voice with, and you know. So what I decided to do in this video is to actually jump into the LFG tool and find a group, which I did, as you can see right here. It appears to be a pre-made, I give you that. I think it's like a French group. I think Ilun is a French server. And they seem to be a group of friends, but it's still a pickup group. I just got picked up by them. I just hopped into the LFG tool and yeah, they accepted me into a 17th Theater of Pain, which we will look into how I have to play the key, since actually how you play pug groups is really different compared to how you play with friends that you are in voice comms with. And we will see that. I also played Hailstorm in this key compared to Elemental Assault, which I'm really inexperienced with. Pretty much the last time that I really played Hailstorm was during the pre-patch when it was still overpowered before the nerf. So we're gonna see how it worked out. And I just say we hop right into the key right now. We got the pull timer going, I got buffed up everything. And again, as I mentioned multiple times in videos before, you use Feral Spirits right before the key starts, right here. And then the key gets activated and you already got the Maelstrom weapon stacks rolling and your Feral Spirits are ready again, which is awesome. By the way, I apologize for my webcam over here. Cutting a bit of my health bar off, which is why I wasn't recording with a face cam, but rather with a chat block that's a bit lower, so I apologize for that, but I think you can still see my health, which is fine. And we just start the key right here. First pack, I don't use any big cooldowns, I only use Doom Winds. Since the first boss is really close, there's not a lot of trash going on, so I basically just use Doom Winds. During my Doom Winds window, I tried to not really focus on Frost Shocking and using my Hailstorm buff as often, since in my opinion it's still worth during your Doom Winds window to prioritize Storm Strike, Crash Lightning and Sundering over spending Maelstrom and using Hailstorm. I didn't mention it yet, but you can see my Hailstorm buff right here above my Frost Shock icon. Let me wait until I use, yeah, right here, you can see it. Whenever I use Maelstrom weapon stacks and I actually have the Hailstorm buff, which you can see over here on my buffs, you can see it down here and it counts down the time that I have to spend the proc before it disappears. So definitely this is where you want to pay attention to in this dungeon. And yeah, I just used the Chain Harvest here to top off the group since we were getting pretty low. And as I said, I hold all of my cooldowns, which is why I'm pretty low on the damage meter right now compared to the Frost Mage. By the way, we're not playing Fire Mage in this key, we're playing a Frost Mage and a Resto Druid. So Demon Hunter tank still really good, Marksman Hunter, can't complain about that. A bit weird playing with a Frost Mage and a Resto Druid, and we will see why that is later in the key. So right here I'm just waiting for him to mark the bosses, since I didn't know what they wanted to play first. Obviously we didn't talk about the key like at all. I didn't know what they were planning on doing. And this is where I actually have to think about how I play way more. And there will be some different cases later on during the key that I have to play way differently. It's opposed to playing with friends, and we will talk about that then. So obviously right now I'm just doing my burst on 3 targets, which is why I'm doing 20k DPS, even though I'm playing Hailstorm instead of Elemental Assault. And you can already see the damage of the Hunter and the Mage are not great. Like the Mage is doing kinda okay right now. It would have been way higher if it was a Fire Mage. And already on the first boss I could tell this dungeon is gonna be rough. Since it appeared to me, like not right now, the mage actually caught up to me quite a bit, but it will be apparent later on in the key that I actually am the one that has to carry the damage a tiny bit. And doing that while playing Hailstorm, I definitely didn't feel that confident, you know? Since, as I mentioned before, I don't really play Hailstorm that often, and to carry a whole group's damage by playing something that I'm not really used to playing was really difficult. But I was 100% sure that I could do it, And so I stuck with it, and yeah, we'll just see how the key ends up. So the first boss is already dead, second one about to die. I'm just trying to cleave as good as I can onto both of them. Obviously, the biggest thing that you want to watch out for if you play Hailstorm is that you don't have to use Frost Shock right after you spend Maelstrom weapon stacks. The most important thing is just to use the Hailstorm buff before you spend Maelstrom the next time, okay? So you don't override your buff and lose one. That's the most important part. So it's not really important that you like Chain Lightning into Frost Shock. You can also like Chain Lightning into Crash Lightning, into Storm Strike, into Frost Shock, and then use another Chain Lightning. That's possible as well. The only really important thing is that you don't override your Hailstorm buff by another one. That's really important. So we down the first boss. Again, I don't really know what the Hunter damage is. Like, it's whatever. I don't know. The Frost Mage actually pretty good in terms of damage. I mean, still I believe that it would have been way higher if he was fire. But yeah, that's just what we have to deal with in this key. So the tank decides to go to this squad of the dungeon first and pull this little pack here. I use Wolves and Doomwinds here since yeah, I don't want to waste them. I want to rotate my cooldowns. It wasn't worth to wait for Ascendance in this case, since it's only 3 enemies. They will die pretty quickly anyways. And you can see during Doomwinds, again, I'm not really doing like the whole Frost Shocking thing. I'm just Storm Strike, Crash Lightning and Sundering and try to do that as much as possible. After the Doomwinds window ends, I'm starting to use more Frost Shocks and spending Maelstrom weapon stacks and stuff like that. And I think if I remember correctly, this is the point where I noticed the biggest problem of this group. And the biggest problem of this group is low amounts of targets trash enemies, right? So especially like single target trash fights is where this group is really lacking damage. Since I feel like most of them, and me included, didn't want to use cooldowns on single target enemies, and so it took us a very, very long time to get single enemies down if we didn't pull like a big group of enemies, which is what's happening right here. As you can see, I think the Hunter actually used Wild Spirits, if I saw that correctly in the beginning. I only use Doomwinds. I don't really want to use my Ascendance on this guy in this situation. Like, I thought it's just a single enemy and it's a trash enemy. Obviously it's fortified, true, but I still didn't feel like using my Ascendance on this guy, which is why I didn't. And you can see the Hunter is doing 4.2k DPS right now. I'm doing 3.4. The Mage is doing 3k. Those are not great damage numbers by any means, right? So at this point I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should use my cooldowns a bit differently. This group definitely needs some damage, and I'm starting to see a pattern how the Hunter and the Mage want to use their cooldowns, right? So I have to adapt to that, which is what you have to do in a pack group. You're not in voice comms most of the time. You don't know the players that you play with. Like, if I play with my friends, I know when they want to use cooldowns. They either tell me, or I just got used to playing with them and know how we function together, you know? But in a pack group, that doesn't work. So right here, it's another single target enemy. I used Wolves, I used Ascendance, I used Doomwinds, and I just blasted this guy. You see, no one is using any cooldowns except for me, which is why I'm doing that much damage. And that is just because A, I know I will have it back up for the boss fight, and B, if I don't do it and we all just hold our cooldowns for the whole fight, we won't get it down, you know? Or not fast enough, at least. Like, we won't meet the timer if I don't start using cooldowns whenever they don't use cooldowns, which is what I'm doing right here. And you can see we're still taking a lot of time to get Heathen the Breaker down here. But we do finally end up killing him. And this is the first Pride of the dungeon, which is also really interesting. Since, as I've mentioned in multiple keys before, I never use cooldowns on Pride, right? Like, except for when we are in a really difficult situation, like someone dies and we struggle to actually get the Pride down. Outside of a situation like this, I never use cooldowns on Pride, since I just know that my cooldowns have so much more value if I wait to get the Pride buff and then use my Doom Winds or whatever cooldown basically. And right here I use my Chain Harvest as well. I noticed that the healer was really struggling in some situations. Like right here, you can see it again. I used a Healing Surge to top me off, since at this point I wasn't trusting the healer. Like, I wasn't trusting him a single bit. Like, you can see the healing that I'm doing in this pack, right? From my Chain Harvest and my Healing Surge. Since at this pride, right now, it's the first pride of the dungeon, I noticed I have to help the healer throughout the whole key, which is what we will see in multiple occasions afterwards. So, yeah. We get him down, we got the Pride buff. Now there's a big pack coming, and I know that they can deal a lot of damage. So I let the Demon Hunter get aggro a little bit. I Doom Winds into Crash Lightning and just start cleaving. If I don't use anything else except for Doom Winds, there will be times where maybe I don't have like Crash Lightning or Stormflurry ready and stuff like that, which then I can start using Frost Shocks earlier. It's just that whenever you have the procs, then you can just keep spamming, basically. So I use Astral Shift here, since the enemies do a lot of damage, actually. And again, I'm not really trusting the healer on that one. So definitely throw out the Astral Shift here. I have to be really on point with using my Astral Shift, since there will be a lot of cases where I need to use it in order to survive. So next up, another big guy. Single target big guy. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm obviously gonna use cooldowns on this one again, since yeah, that's just what I have to do. At least I think so. It would be really weird. Yeah, okay. Now I use Doom Winds right here. I'm saving Wolves and Ascendance, since obviously right after this will be the boss. So I want to at least have Wolves and Ascendance for the boss. But using Doom Winds here, it looks like the other guys are using some cooldowns as well. And still, since it's fortified and it's a 17, Advent Nevermore really has a lot of HP, and we kind of take a lot of time to actually get him down, even though everyone used cooldowns. I don't know how many or which cooldowns exactly the Hunter and the Mage used. For me it was only Doom Winds. And yeah, so that's what we're doing here. Also, always keeping attention to the HP of the group. You can see me in this dungeon, as I always do, but in this dungeon it's really important to mention it. I always drop down Healing Stream. Whenever there's a global in my rotation where I have nothing to press, which actually I noticed if you play Hailstorm, you get those windows a lot where you have nothing to press. And in this moment, press the Healing Stream. I can't stress this enough. Press the Healing Stream totem. Over the course of a dungeon, the Healing Stream totem will actually make such a big of a difference. And it's actually really important that you always press it. So you can see how slow this Pride is dying, since obviously I don't want to use Doom Winds again here. No one wants to use any cooldowns, it seems like. But I'm keeping Chain Harvest, since obviously I have to support the healer in this case. And I'm not really 100% sure if I use it, but I think I should use it as soon as I get one more stack. No, I didn't. Okay, we killed it and I saved it actually. I used the stacks to top me off though, right before the boss. And we don't use Bloodlust here since it's not ready yet, but we got the Pride buff, which is why I think, yeah, I'm using Wolves, I'm using Doom Winds, I'm keeping Ascendance, and the reason for that is, which is actually, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, since I didn't know exactly what the timer was on the Blood and Glory. Like when he puts two of you into the arena and you fight, and whoever wins comes back with a damage buff. I didn't know exactly how long that would take, which is why I saved Ascendance. And I thought maybe if I get thrown in, which is what I do right here, I get thrown in. I thought I might have Doom Winds and Ascendance ready whenever this ends. So I start pumping onto the Hunter, but I noticed that my Doom Winds wouldn't be ready, so I just turn around and let the Hunter finish me off. Because I thought maybe the Hunter had more cooldowns ready than I did. Which I think was the right decision here, since I didn't really have anything ready, so the buff would have been wasted on me. And yeah, that's just what I did there. The next Blood and Glory is in 37 seconds, which is way too long, and the boss will probably die earlier than that. So that's when I decide to pop my Ascendance, use Doom Winds, and just start doing my damage basically. So maybe the Ascendance would have been used better if I just used it on pull. I let you decide, but at least I used it in kind of a good way. And yeah, right here, by the way, really weird. Or not really weird, but I mean, he starts casting the AoE right here, and yes, I'm a bit late with starting to walk out. I give you that 100%. But I start walking out, and I actually astral shifted this damage right here. Maybe I can catch it right the moment where I use it. Do I? Oh, okay. Like, I used it, you can see it's on cooldown, but I'm not 100% sure if it went through. This was really close, since I got 41k damage. And if it's a 40% damage reduction on a fortified key. I'm not really sure if it went through. Since if it didn't, then yeah, I guess okay, but I don't know, it's weird. I should have just started walking out earlier. That's a mistake on my end. I should have used Astral Shift earlier. I could have health potted as well. It's just a really stupid mistake. But I was slowed way more than I thought I would be. So I die there. It happens sometimes. That's just how it is. And I'm considering if I want to use my Ankh right here. And I decide to do it since the boss is at 8% and both of the DPS got thrown into the ring, and I was worried about the tank not being able to finish off the boss before he spawns another banner, you know? Since the banner, as you can see, is in 0.4 seconds, so he's about to spawn a banner, and the Demon Hunter would never be able to kill this banner, right? And I was worried that the DPS would come back out of the arena when the boss was doing the AoE effects and the banner was still at full health, which is why I decide to Ankh right here and basically just finish off the boss before he starts doing his AoE. Like, I started on the banner, but then I noticed, okay, I got enough damage to just finish off the boss, which is what I'm doing right here, and I think it's the right decision. I think we could have wiped if the Demon Hunter wasn't able to finish the banner and the 2 DPS came back and died as well due to the banner. So I think this was actually a good Ankh, which obviously you always want to think about Ankhing first. You don't want to just, whenever you die, throw out your Ankh and then maybe die again instantly, or not really getting any use out of it, since the trash would die in like 2 seconds anyways and someone could have just rest you. So keep that in mind to always like kind of think about when to use your Ankh. So right here we just AoE this pack down. I actually don't do any damage here since I wasn't really aware of how we were supposed to play this pack, but we played it with the Vortex from the Resto Druid, which was actually really nice on this pack since the enemies always jump away, and if he uses the Vortex there, everyone just gets gripped back basically and stays grouped up. But I just let the Hunter and the Mage do their damage, which is fine as well. I didn't really use anything there. Next pack though, I use Wolves, I use Doomwinds into Crash Lightning, and I kind of do a bit more damage here. I use Sunder as well, get a lot of enemies hit there. Again, not using that many Frost Shocks during my Doomwinds window, just getting the Crash Lightning, Storm Strike and Sundering out, as I mentioned many times before. And again, just playing really careful, you know, trying to get the interrupts done, looking out for not getting cleaved, not pulling aggro, supporting the healer with the heals and stuff like that. And in this situation, like, I'm not really just chilling and playing the key. I'm really like focusing, how do I have to play this key, which it definitely takes a lot more effort to play keys with randoms, especially this part. I actually remember this part really well, since this part is gonna be really interesting from my perspective. Since in Fortified, in higher keys, this room right here with the Shackled Souls is actually quite difficult. And you can see we all waited, so the souls wouldn't cast on us, or hit us basically, and just let the tank group up the enemies. And you can see the tank dropped down to, I don't know what that is, like 5% HP. And then he gets the healing from the Resto Druid. So now we run in, and I put down a cap totem, and I stun all of them here. And I use Doom Winds, and just start bursting. I pop Ascendance as well, since I'm rather scared of this pack. I Sunder them as well to get a bit more interrupt done. I Chain Harvest here to top the group off a little bit. And it's still going really bad. So I interrupt the cast on me. I Astral Shift as well. And I just try to cleave all of them down as good as I can. So right now we get bursting, right? And I see that we already have a lot of stacks. Like the group is really low. Maybe it would have even been better to keep Chain Harvest for the bursting, which I just noticed afterwards, unfortunately. But the group is getting really low, and this Shackled Soul is about to die, and we definitely don't want to extend the bursting stacks right now to 6 stacks, which that would basically mean a wipe at this point. So I just hit escape. I don't want to hit this soul anymore. I also used my healing potion earlier, and now I'm at 10 stacks. So the first 5 stacks I use for a healing surge on myself. And now what I'm gonna do next is I'm using another healing surge on me. And I think that I'm also using a healing stream at some point. Okay, I actually didn't use it during the fight, but I use it afterwards to recover. I should have used it way earlier actually to support the healer way more during this phase instead of doing damage. So only the mage died and he releases, and we're gonna move on to the next pack, which again is quite a difficult pack since it's basically the same pack again, just with the one addition that you actually have to drag the souls out of this room. So I interrupt one that was casting right there, and I walk out here and I try to chill a tiny bit. I sunder all of them to interrupt their casts. Again, just trying to do as much damage as possible to kill all of them at the same time. And we cleave them down pretty evenly, which is nice. I use a healing surge on myself to support the healer, and I put healing stream down. So in this case we were pretty safe. It went way better than the first pull. But it's definitely a pull, or 2 pulls rather, that you have to be careful and you have to look out for, especially in higher fortified keys. And then we got this Portal Guardian right here, which does a ton of pulsing AoE damage, which is why I used my Chain Harvest there to top of the group once. And I think I'm gonna place a healing stream at some point as well. Yeah, right there I put it down preemptively for the next channel of his damage, to again support the healer, doing the healing that I can basically. And now we're just trying to finish it off before we drop too low again. And we got a Pride right here. I'm not really sure. I think I may use a Doom Winds here. Yes. Now I start using cooldowns on the Prides, since I noticed that we don't have a lot of single target damage outside of cooldowns. And I was worried that they were not gonna use anything again on this Pride, which I think they actually didn't use anything. So I used Doom Winds here. Doom Winds is definitely enough to finish off a Pride. You don't have to use a Wolves or Ascendance on a Pride. At least on a 17. I don't know how it is on very high keys. Like that's why I'm always saying high-ish keys, since I'm aware that a 17 is not the highest key that you can do right now. I'm definitely aware of that, okay? But it's still a high key for some people, and I think a lot of guys that watch my videos are maybe doing like around the, you know, like the 12 to 15 keys and stuff like that. So I think that 17 for a lot of people is still considered a higher key. But I try to be careful with my wording, you know, to not like to not express that like a 17 is the highest key that you can do, right? So we finished those 2 guys off. On these platforms you gotta be really careful to not add additional packs to the one that you're pulling, and interrupts. Interrupts are really important in those packs, which is why I always want to put focus on some enemies and keep them interrupted. I actually use every cooldown here, since there were 2 enemies that you have to interrupt, and I wasn't really sure about the other guys interrupting. And the Portal Guardian on top dealing tons and tons of damage. So I used my cooldowns there. I got the full value out of them, so I don't think that it was wasted. It seems like the Hunter and the Mage did the same though, so we all used cooldowns there, which isn't really that good, but that's what happens sometimes in pack groups. So right here we get 2 Nefarious Dark Speakers, and you definitely want to dodge the Death Winds right here. If you get hit by one of these green like tornadoes, you get knocked off the platform, which is obviously really, really bad. And you want to keep the Spirit Frost casts interrupted, which is also quite important. As you can see, the damage is quite low since none of us have cooldowns left, since we just all used them on the platform before that. Also, the curses that get thrown out on some people, you can decurse them as an Enhancement Shaman. And I think it's actually quite good to do so, since at least one of those curses makes you spawn. Like, you can see it right here. The Hunter just has the curse right here. You can see it on his HP bar. And he drops purple floors behind him when he's walking. Like, even when he's not walking. Like, if you stand still, you just spawn purple circles under you. And to make that stop, you can just decurse him and then they stop spawning after him, which is really nice. Especially for casters. For a Hunter, it's kinda okay, since he only really has to cast aim shot. But for a mage, especially, like, it's really, really bad, since they have to move and dodge the purple circles all the time. So definitely make sure to decurse that and just help your group mates out and make their life a bit easier. Which I'm actually really not doing it for the Hunter at the moment, since I'm not the only one in the group that can do it. So I didn't really do it in the beginning. I will do it on the next few platforms, however, since I noticed how long the other guy was taking to do it. So I figured I should just do it instead. And especially right here, since the platform is really small and we don't have a lot of space. Obviously I still try to get my burst out here. And I also try to keep the guys interrupted. But I always have to keep an eye open for the curses that are getting thrown out. We get the first guy down, which is already pretty good for this platform, so you can chill a bit more, you know. Second guy goes down, and somehow the mage still died. And it's pretty bad, to be honest, if you die on those platforms, since the run back takes really long because you have to use the portals to get back. So yeah, but I think we couldn't res him because I think he actually got thrown off the platform. And right here, just as an example, you can see me decursing the Hunter. So I instantly just target him, I decurse it, and he only spawns one purple void zone. And after that, he doesn't spawn anymore, which is really, really good on these tiny platforms. Again, death wins. As you saw our mage getting thrown off, just dodge them. It's not really that hard. It can be a bit harder if there are multiple enemies still alive. But if there's only one, then just take it safe and dodge. Even if there are more enemies, always dodge the death wins. It's not really worth getting out that tiny bit more damage. You definitely won't do any damage if you get blown off the platform. So priority number one, dodge the death wins. That's really important. So now we got Pride, and the mage is not here. So I'm thinking maybe I should use cooldowns to compensate for the mage not being here. But I saw the Hunter using cooldowns, and that's the reason why I actually decided to hold my cooldowns and not use them on the Pride. Since we're actually doing quite a bit of damage, even though the mage is not here yet. And by delaying killing the Pride a tiny bit, like we're not just rushing him down with two of us using cooldowns, we're actually giving the mage time to catch up to us. So whenever we proc the Pride buff, we can then all together go to the boss and use the Pride buff. Which is why I held Chain Harvest and just used it here for some healing. And now we just move on to the boss with the Pride buff, and the mage is kinda close to us. Since again, as I just said, if we both blow cooldowns to compensate for the mage not being there, we will kill the Pride really early, have the buff, and then have to wait like 10 seconds for the mage to arrive, and the Pride buff is just falling off, which wouldn't have been worth. So in this moment I decided to take it slow, focus on healing so we can tank the Pride a bit longer. And now we got 30 seconds of Pride still. Still, it wasn't perfect by any means, but we got it at least for this boss. And I'm using Wolves, Ascendance, Doomwinds, just going ham on this boss. We also use Bloodlust right here. So I'm just pumping the boss as much as I can. Again, Doomwinds, not using Frost Shock there. And right now, I get to draw a soul. I move in really late. I also Astral Shift since I was stacking with the Hunter, since the other The other grippy hands were pretty far away. So just playing it safe right here. Doing all the damage that I can. Now outside of my cooldowns, Bloodlust also about to fade. I definitely slow down a lot in terms of damage. The playstyle gets way slower outside of Bloodlust, Prideful, cooldowns, whatever. And yeah, obviously with the Draw Soul, always go into those grippy hands. So you can instantly pick up your soul again, get a little buff and can start pumping again. So right here you can see I step in really late since it actually does a bit of damage. I get the buff and I just start pumping again with Doom Winds actually here again. It came back up. By the way, sorry for my add-on that's displaying the globals that I'm using. On this boss, it's just kind of all over the place with those icons sometimes just rushing through like from the boss. I think it's like whenever I stand in the grippy hands, I can't really do anything against about that. So sorry about that one. So yeah, just kind of trying to get the boss down. Obviously, it takes a lot longer, as I said, outside of my cooldowns. You can see even though I'm playing Hailstorm, I'm still doing a bit more damage than the mage and kind of a lot more damage than the hunter. So not even are the classes that we're playing not the optimal setup. They are also not doing as much damage as I think they could do with their current specs. Don't want to like front them or anything. It's just what I noticed. So yeah, but we get him down. Still, we didn't wipe up to this point, and still like we didn't wipe, and it still doesn't look really that good in terms of the timer. We got 12 minutes, about 12 minutes left, and we still have to do like one part of the dungeon, have to do a boss, and then the last boss. So at this point, I'm really thinking like, okay, maybe we won't be able to meet the timer. And yeah, I definitely have to step up my game at this point. And I'm really thinking like, maybe I should use my cooldowns more often. Maybe I'm just sitting on them too long. Which obviously I've been thinking about my cooldowns earlier in this key already. But now I'm not as chilled anymore. And I think about like, you know, maybe I should use them more often, so I get more uses over the course of the dungeon. So we overall just get more damage out. So yeah, which is why here I used cooldowns as well. We all got the debuff here, so I'm just healing a tiny bit and using Astral Shift to not die. So I'm just trying to support my healer a little bit here. Since at this point I know if we wipe, if we have one full wipe, this key is gone. So I definitely have to kind of find a mix between getting everything out of my character like offensively, so we actually push the dungeon. Since I said it in the beginning, I have to carry the DPS in this dungeon. At least that's what I felt like. But on the other hand, I also have to help them with healing. So it's kind of a really weird situation. Right here they want to skip this guy, which is actually really beneficial. But since I used a damage potion earlier, I wasn't able to in this potion. So I just waited. The mage kind of fucked up the skip and pulled, and I was really close to getting aggro as well. But I instantly walked back and dodged it. So the mage dies here. And I just wait for this guy to walk to the side to then skip it. I could have also just died and let the druid rest both of us. But I figured it just wasn't worth. Like I can just skip it like this and not get the 5-second penalty of dying basically. So we're down here now. This is actually a really scary pack, I think, in pack groups. So I used Doom Winds here and Ascendance just to make sure to get the pack down. I dropped rather low here, so I used Chain Harvest just to top me off and do some offensive pressure as well. Since, yeah, a lot of these enemies have a lot of HP in this specific pack. So it's definitely worth using cooldowns here, especially in Fortified, to just get them down. Also making sure to interrupt all the casts. And yeah, basically just do as much damage as I can. I gotta say it feels really weird playing Hailstorm outside of your cooldowns. I'm definitely not a fan. Having played this key, there were so many situations where I was just standing there, having like 2 Maelstrom weapon stacks, 1 Maelstrom weapon stacks, sometimes even 0, And I was just standing there hitting Storm Strike, Crash Lightning, whatever, and just not getting any procs. Like the amount of procs that you get from playing Elemental Assault is actually crazy, and you don't even notice how many you're getting from Elemental Assault until you play without Elemental Assault, you know? And I definitely noticed in this key, and yeah, I just don't like playing Hailstorm. I gotta be honest to you guys. I can tell you that I don't like it. That's just what it comes down to. The mage dies again here. Again, not really good by any means. Especially since our damage is low anyways, and I have to use cooldowns all the time to make up for our damage. And yeah, right here I rest the mage, since the healer should just drink. He's just resting still. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he didn't saw that I was resting as well. I got more haste than the druid, so it's always better if I rest and he drinks, so he got mana for the next pack. Instead of him resting and me just not doing anything. So definitely keep that in mind as an enhancement shaman, since we're playing a lot of haste, that you should be the one that single target reses people if only like one guy dies. You definitely want to do that job and not let your healer do that. So yeah, we get this guy down, and right now I notice it's 7 minutes left. We still got those two guys, we got another Pride, and we got 2 bosses. And I'm thinking, that's really not a lot of time left, right? Like, this is gonna get insanely close. And actually, right here, I didn't think that we could make this anymore. And maybe we won't. Like, we will see, right? So, less than 7 minutes. Those guys actually took quite a bit to get them down, as you can see. Maybe the mage used cooldowns here, I'm not really sure. The demon hunter is actually doing quite a bit of damage, which is nice. You have to be careful with the chops that these guys are doing, since they actually deal a ton of damage, which is why I have to be really careful here to not like randomly die. And now we get Pride, and right after this Pride will be a boss, but I still decide to use Doomwinds here, since I thought that the mage just used cooldowns on those 2 guys, and I really had the opinion, or I was expecting, that's what I wanted to say, I was expecting the hunter to not use cooldowns here, which I'm not sure if he did, to be honest. Like, he does 4k damage, not really sure if that's like him using cooldowns or not. I don't know, but I was aware that the damage would be low, so I just used cooldowns here. I think I'm about to chain harvest as well. Yeah, I just chain harvested there to actually heal up the mage, but he stands out of range. Which I can tell you guys, if you play with an enhancement shaman and you know that he's like supporting your healer with chain harvest, stay in range. Please don't stand at like max range, since chain harvest is an insane spell. But if you're just out of range, it doesn't matter, right? So especially for prides, obviously don't stack like on each other. But at least be in like, you know, a tiny bit out of melee range. That's just fine. But don't just stand like 40 yards away at max range and cast your spells. That's not helping us enhancement shamans. So right here again, I had to wait a tiny bit for my Doomwinds, but then I used Wolves and Ascendance and Doomwinds to deal as much damage as I can. I think I fuck up on this boss fight actually twice on the hooks, since I was really trying to maximize my damage here, and by that I missed a few of the hooks, like right here I think. Yeah, it's just a stupid mistake. I thought I was far enough to the side, I wasn't. Shit happens. That's just how it is. I shouldn't have been too greedy on the damage there, but I was really scared for the timer, since you can see it's 4 minutes left. We still haven't killed this boss. We're not even on the last boss yet. So I dodged this one, which was nice. I use another Doomwinds, since obviously I just want to throw everything at this boss. I can't hold my cooldowns right now. I have to get this boss down, so we can go to the next boss. And so he's at 8% right here. And we're getting close to getting him down. Again, I'm dodging the hooks. Again, not dodging those. I don't know what's happening to me. I'm just really bad in this situation, okay? I did a few mistakes. And right here, you can see this is actually considered a 5-head move, right? Like right here I got the dot from the hook, the boss is dead, and we have to walk to the hooks and get hooked up, and then the RP starts for the last boss. And I actually start casting a healing surge right here to survive the last tick of the dot, since this last tick will kill me of the dot. So I'm casting the healing surge, and I think I would have gotten it off and saved me, but you can actually see me at the end move and interrupt it so that I would die. I was pressing my healing potion as well, since I was just pressing that during the healing surge while I was still thinking that I, you know, that I could survive basically the dot. But right as I interrupted my healing surge, I was like, yes, that's good. I can die, and then I can release, and I'm upstairs already, since we only got 3.5 minutes. And me being upstairs and porting up actually starts the RP earlier for the last boss, because all the other people are still down, getting dragged up by the hooks, and then using the teleporter, right? So with me being up earlier, I obviously take the 5-second penalty, but I think that I was here more than 5 seconds before the second guy, right? And if that's true, then I saved time here. So you could say it was a lucky accident there as well. It ended up being a really good move, and we're at the last boss. We got almost exactly 3 minutes for the last boss. We got Bloodlust. 6 deaths on the board, which obviously isn't great, but you know. I use Wolf's Doomwinds here during Bloodlust just to get them as low as possible. I'm keeping Chain Harvest, and on this boss, Chain Harvest and Ascendance are incredible for the ads, since especially on Tyrannical, this boss can really be scary with spawning the ads on you, which you can see right here. And I don't know if I'm doing it right here. The ads spawn, and you have to interrupt those death bolts or kill the ads quick enough, or stun them, knock them back, whatever. But just don't let them cast. Obviously it's fortified. It's not that bad on fortified. It's still a 17 key, so it's not really that you can just ignore them. And yeah, on the first ones, I thought, I was like thinking, obviously I'm not in voice, as I mentioned multiple times. So I think that they will use cooldowns on the first ones, right? Since, yeah, like we didn't talk about anything, like we didn't pair our cooldowns or anything. So I thought, okay, probably on the first ones, everyone's using cooldowns, right? So I held my Chain Harvest there. I also held my Ascendance, and I just thought I will do the second ones, right? They can just use everything on the first one. I will save it for the second ones, which right here, we get the second ads. I use Ascendance, almost kill the first two, then use Chain Harvest and actually kill them off, almost kill the third one. If that would have crit, probably 3 or 4 of them would have been dead instantly, which it wasn't, unfortunately. But I interrupt this one, use my Ascendance to kill it off, Wind Strike this one to get him down, and the Mage CS the last one. So we handled the second set of ads pretty good right here. Mage dies again. I don't know, maybe he didn't play this dungeon really often before, maybe he's just not focused in this key, I don't know, like he died multiple times to various mechanics. But the boss is really low already, he's at like 14%, and I'm out of cooldowns, so I'm just playing my normal rotation, making sure that I don't die to these ghosts. Like you can see, I lose uptime a tiny bit, I port back to get uptime again, but it's really important that I don't die here, since if we would wipe at this point, I would just be done. Like, that would have just killed me, and I don't know how many seconds that were, like 54, 53, 52, 52 seconds left. We timed the key with a puck group, playing quite differently to how I normally play. You can see I top damaged as well, 5.8k. It's okay, I guess. As I said, I pretty much never played Hailstorm since the pre-patch, since I didn't like it. Like, obviously I played 1 or 2 keys with it to test it out, but I wasn't really interested, and I don't like the playstyle. That's the TLDR. I don't like playing Hailstorm. It can do okay damage, I guess. but it just feels weird. I like playing with Elemental Assault way more in terms of the playstyle. It feels way more fluid. It feels more smooth, you know. So yeah, still the top damage. Again, with a Marksman Hunter, Frost Mage. I actually show my damage breakdown as well, so you can see like how much damage Frost Shock actually did playing Hailstorm. So yeah, right here you can see it. Wind Fury obviously still being top since I was playing Doom Winds. Storm Strike also really high, since during Doom Winds, as I mentioned multiple times throughout this key, I didn't use Maelstrom Spenders and Frost Shock during Doom Winds. I think it's the way to go. Maybe it's not, that's just my opinion. Frost Shock coming in at like almost 8% of my damage, which is kinda okay, I guess. It's not too bad. Obviously, you can't really compare this to pre-nerf Hailstorm. Like, if you played pre-nerf Hailstorm, there's probably nothing that you would ever want to play again afterwards. Like, pre-nerf Hailstorm definitely was one of the most fun times that you could have playing Enhancement. It was just so overpowered. But yeah, I guess there you have it. A Hailstorm key. A Pug key. I guess I proved that you can play with Pugs and time 17 keys. Again, I know the argument will come up that this is a pre-made of them, I guess. I still got picked up, I don't know. But I'm pretty certain that you can do it with like just all random people that don't know each other. I don't know, I don't want to go like into too much detail about like how it was meant, like whatever. Let's just say we did it, and I hope you could take something from the key. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I will definitely look into doing more Mythic Plus commentaries, since you guys definitely like them, and your support has been awesome. I enjoy reading your guys' comments and all the feedback that I get. And yeah, with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching. Take care and stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next video or on the live stream, whatever you prefer, and I will see you then. Peace.